Hi, it's Peter Chapman, and I'd like to welcome you to our SKU Food Recipe for Success this week, presented by FCC, where we're going to talk about temporary price reductions. And it's such a simple little statement, temporary price reductions, TPRs, as lots of people like to call them. But it is something that's complex. And as producers and processors in the food industry, we really need to understand the impacts of these on our business. And it's something that, unfortunately, it is a reality in the food business. It's something that we've done a great job training consumers to look for deals and look for specials. And so it's something that retailers expect and consumers expect. So we have to figure out how to factor it into the equation of the numbers in your business, which is our theme this month in October, where we're talking about the numbers. We've talked about some of the different aspects of how it impacts your business, how retailers set retail pricing, how they look at gross margin or category margin, which for a retailer, those two words are synonymous, category margin and gross margin, and just how that profitability kind of works out for the retailer, comes down to their bottom line. So we tried to go through some of those kind of complexities, and there are some challenging things when you're going through some of these numbers to understand them and figure them out. So it's been I think some really interesting topics this month, and hopefully we've tried to make the numbers interesting and exciting for you as well, because I know we like to make things, we like to build things and get out and get at them, but understanding the numbers and managing the numbers in your business is a really important component of being great at selling the great products you make. So we appreciate you being here on our Wednesday afternoon session with SKU Food and FCC. We started these sessions on Wednesday afternoon as a means to really give back to food producers and processors as they try to deal with some of the really incredible challenges of 2020. And it has been a challenging year, there's no doubt about it. And we're starting to see in parts of the country where we're reverting back to some of the restrictions we had in the spring. So it's very difficult for everybody when it comes to getting people going to work and getting the things done that they have to do. But on the other hand, people are still expecting to find food in grocery stores and expect to get all the products that they're looking for. So it is a challenging time. And what I try to do in our recipe for success is use my background in the industry. I started working at a store. My plan was not to work in the grocery industry for my whole life, but that seems to be what has happened. After working at a store and going to school, I started a summer job actually with Loblaw companies. And that turned into 19 years working with Loblaw companies, where I was responsible for marketing and advertising, and then ultimately some of the merchandising, the perishable departments in Atlantic Canada for Loblaw. And then in the last 12 years, I've had the privilege of working on my own with different producers and processors across the country, and really helping them understand the retailers as customers, how they make decisions, why they make decisions, and how that can impact and really ultimately help them get their product on the shelf and into the shopping cart. And that's really what we're all about here at SKU Food is helping producers and processors get their product on the shelf and into the shopping cart, and share some insights and tips and tools that you can use to do that and use them in your business every day and every week. So we really appreciate the partnership that we've developed with FCC and our Recipes for Success. It's great to have them as part of our program, and I'm sure that you're familiar with FCC and their role in agriculture, but you might not know that they're the only Canadian lender that's 100% invested in Canadian agriculture and food. And FCC supports the entire ecosystem that surrounds agriculture and food. They finance food processors, manufacturers, wholesale distribution companies, equipment, and packaging suppliers. And they really work with companies that are at every stage of that life cycle, from small artisanal businesses right up to large companies who are exporting globally. And FCC also offer a number of financing options for assistance with cash flow, equipment purchases, inventory financing, expansion, construction, real property, startup, and diversification, plus a lot more. And I know that in some of these challenging times, having access to somebody who understands the food industry to work with you on your financing challenges or opportunities is something that can be very valuable. So I would always encourage people to contact FCC and have a conversation about how they can help and benefit your business. And we continue to get more requests for our recipes for success and opportunity to continue doing our sessions, which we really appreciate. And we do recognize that your time is valuable. So we appreciate you being here with us. And we're going to record the session and be able to send that link out to people. And I know that when we first started doing our sessions, there were more and more people who were really kind of work had stopped a little bit, and people were really in that cocoon stage. Now, as things have evolved a bit and people are getting back to doing some of their things, it's not always possible to be here with us live on Wednesday afternoon. We appreciate those of you who are, because it's great to have the interaction, and we encourage you to ask questions and look for, you know, the insights that really will help specifically your business. And I always will continue to watch the chat and the Q&A at the bottom, so feel free to use those. And it's really all about being able to interact. But we do record the sessions, and we'll send that recording out to those people who've registered and also those on our list. So let's just take a look and start to see what we're going to focus on today. There's a lot of different things that we're going to cover. So let's get into it and take a look at that agenda. So first of all, I'm going to just talk a little bit overall about temporary price reductions, about these TPRs, and what does it mean. We're going to talk about trade spend versus marketing spend, which are two terms that you should definitely be familiar with, and we're going to explain the difference to them. I'm going to show you how this discounting sort of manifests itself out in that retail environment, and then we're going to look at some examples and figure out how to really try and understand the impact of offering some of these discounts have on your business. So I see a note there in the chat from Lana. So hello, how are you? Welcome, and great to hear from you, and see that you're here with us again this week. So let's talk about really overall, and the thing for me that we have to accept, and I know it's frustrating sometimes that retailers want to, you know, offer all these different ads and discounts and that kind of thing, but what we have to accept is it's a reality in our industry. And as you can see here from this photo, is just one of the doors in the Sobeys seafood department, and you can see all the signs there that there's specials and items that have a temporary price reduction on them. So we have to accept it's a reality, and everybody has great products. There are so many great items out there, but in the marketplace where we compete, there are very, very few items that don't have some kind of a special offer or discount attached at some point. Now, it doesn't mean it needs to be all the time. And if your item only sells when it's on discount, then that's a different issue which you need to address, because it's probably not sustainable. So we need to have products that the consumer sees value in at regular price, at the everyday sort of regular price. If the consumer sees value, then that's really important. But we can use some of these temporary price reductions to try and perhaps introduce some new consumers to the product, or maybe get some who've left you and to come back, and some of those kind of things. So we really have to make sure that it is a component of our strategy in this competitive food industry in which you're operating in. And this number has always stuck with me from the first time I saw it. So it's from Nielsen's State of the Industry report, and where we're seeing 36% of sales and 48% of tonnage are going through with some form of temporary price reduction. So over 1/3 of sales and almost half of the volume are going through with some form of temporary price reduction. And that's something that we just have to really grapple with, because as you're doing the numbers in your business and understanding, so, you know, I have a cost of production and then I need to mark it up. And within that markup, you need to be able to cover these discounts, which you're going to have to offer to your customers from time to time. So it's just an understanding of the industry and knowing, and some categories are significantly more than this, others are significantly less. So you really have to know what's going on within your own category. And one of the questions which I'm going to answer up front is that there's no right answer to what level of discount that you need to do. Every category is different. The competitors in the category dictate it to some degree. The quickness of the inventory turns in the category dictate it, and also just the regular sort of profitability that's built in at what we would call sort of the regular or the everyday price of the product. So there's no right answer to what level. You have to figure it out within your category, and some of it's trial and error and watching results and what happens when you do have items on temporary price reduction. So it is part of the strategy of the retailers. And you can see this person shopping in the yogurt section there, and perhaps he's being influenced by some of those special tags or whatever, but they really do see it as an integral part of their strategy. And food retail, it's very reactionary. Each of the retailers have sales expectations that they're trying to hit every single week. And as soon as the numbers are collected for the previous week, they're looking at results. They're looking to understand what happened, what didn't happen. And if they start to see that they're not generating the product, the revenue, the sales that they're expecting in their business, then you're going to see them react. And price is one of the reactions. And price is probably the quickest reaction that they can turn to. Yes, we can invest more in labor and offer consumers better service, or perhaps the retailer might increase selection in a store or that kind of thing. But those are long-term. Takes a long time for consumers to recognize some of those things and give you credit and invest more of their weekly shopping bill with you as a retailer. So price is an immediate thing. If you, as we would say on the retail business, if you turn up the heat or you reduce the prices, then consumers will react immediately. So it's part of their strategy. And they do it to drive traffic. And they have to get people into these stores, and deals or discounts or whatever you want to call them are one of the most effective ways to get shoppers into these stores. So they really do need to, in their view, they really do need to do it. And I understand sometimes it can be frustrating because we see that it devalues products, and that it's, that might not be the retail that you think is the right price for selling your product, but they're doing it to generate traffic. And they're also doing it because what the consumer does is they look at their total shopping bill, and they'll say, okay, it cost me $100 to shop at this store. I think if I bought the same basket, it cost me $110 to shop at that store. And they'll make a decision about where they're going to go and spend their food dollars. Now, what consumers really know about price and what prices actually are is not always aligned. They may tell you that they're knowledgeable about price, but I know from experience of doing a lot of market research with consumers, and you sit down and you give them a list of 15 or 20 what we would call impressionable items, which are some of the top selling items that consumers have the best chance of recalling the price point. They really are not always that close, but we still have to give them credit, and we have to make decisions based on how they react to price. And they do definitely, in their mind, react to where they see what they perceive to be the place with the best prices. So it is a tactic that you're going to continue to see retailers use. Now let's talk about these two terms, trade spend and marketing spend. So trade spend is the money that you're going to invest with your retail customers. So if you do flyer specials, if you do in-store specials, if you do in-store demos when we are able to do them again, if you pay the retailer to put up signage in their stores, those are all examples of trade spend. And of course, if I was in my old job at Loblaw, I would tell you that that's the best place to spend your money, because you're going to get the biggest return. The consumer's shopping in the store or shopping on the retailer's e-commerce site, and you're going to invest some of your marketing dollars there, and you're going to reap the best rewards. That's what they would tell you. Well, it's important, and there's no doubt, as a food producer or processor, you need to have some trade spend built into your budget. That's the reality of it. Now, you also need to consider marketing spend, and marketing spend is the money that you invest talking or reaching out or talking directly to the consumer. So that would be money you invest in social media or in mass advertising. It's not money that you invest in a Sobeys or Loblaws or a specialty store. It's money that you invest in the general marketplace to try to build your brand, get your product on the grocery list, and get people to buy your product when they're in the store. And as a producer and processor, you need to have both trade spend and marketing spend. So consider what the right amounts are. Again, no one size fits all solution to this. You need to really explore, understand what else happens in your category, what your competitors are doing, but you need to have both a trade spend and a marketing spend. But today we're going to focus really on this part called the trade spend. And the trade spend is where you will invest. And I found a new tool in PowerPoint, so I'm going to try it out today. But the trade spend is where you're going to invest these discounts with your retail customers, and you're going to offer them some money off your selling price, the price that you sell to them for, and in turn, you're going to expect to see some performance on the promotion side. So that's really where we're going to focus today. And we all know about some of the tactics that the retailers use. We see flyers every week. The retailers put out flyers. I'll just tell you a quick story about flyers. When I was running marketing and advertising here in Atlanta, Canada for Loblaws, so we decided we would do some 2-week ads. And there are a lot of reasons why 2-week ads make sense. They reduce the gross margin investment because the consumers buy more of the specials the first week, less the second week. It also totally reduces the cost in the stores, because one thing we don't sort of factor in when we talk about temporary price reductions is the cost of the retailer to change all those signs every week. So if your product is in, say, 85 or 84 Sobeys stores, and they have to go around and pay somebody to take down the regular price, put up the special sign, and all that. And when you add up all those hours for hundreds or perhaps thousands of items a week, it's a lot of labor. It's a lot of cost to make those price changes in the stores. So that was another reason to do the 2-week ad. And we also, at the time, it was much heavier on print advertising. So there were a lot of costs to save on the paper and printing and distribution of the flyers. So we did the 2-week ad, and we thought, this is taking a leadership role in the market, and our competition might follow, and we'll see, how that goes. Well, the first week, they already would have had their ads planned, so things kind of rolled out, and that's what we would have expected. So we had a first 2-week ad, went for 2 weeks, then we had another 2-week ad. So in the second week of our second 2-week ad, so we're now 4 weeks into this strategy, our competition put an extra ad on the street, extra items and extra newspaper ads to try to bring people across the street from our stores, because they thought that we didn't have as strong an offering because it was the second week of our 2-week ad. So then what do? We say we didn't generate the sales we're supposed to. We got to heat up the prices. We got to be aggressive. We got to get back to regular weekly ads. So that was the end of our 2-week ad experiment, because we thought if we tried it and that other competition would follow, but instead one of the competitors decided that they would take advantage of that second week and try to draw people across the street with even lower prices, and you can imagine what happened after that. So it's an interesting reliance how retailers are really relying on the flyers, but it's so important as a part of their business. So we know that we see the weekly flyers. Then in the weekly flyers, we also have some different strategies, like buy one, get one free. And this is an example from Sobeys, but a lot of the retailers have their own sort of strategies that they try to own and be known for. So if you were selling into Sobeys, you would have to consider, would your item qualify, or could it work for a buy one, get one free ad? And that's a big investment, but they do also move some big volume with it. Another thing about ads that's important to remember, and part of the whole sort of strategy around TPR and temporary price reductions, is they generate signage at store level, and they also generate execution at store level. So you can see from this dairy aisle cheese that they were in the flyer at $3.99, and this is a special over and above merchandising space, so it allows them to merchandise their product in an end cap, so to hopefully generate some extra volume. And you can see that sign on the product definitely, we all shop the categories and look for the signage. Now, in 2020, I would say that the impact of these things has been reduced, as we've talked about consumers shopping the stores differently, and perhaps not shopping categories for as long, and some of those kind of things. They're more interested in really kind of getting in and getting out of the stores. So the whole signage issue is probably not as big an impact as it was prior to the pandemic, but it still does make an impact, and for those people who are looking for a deal. And so you can see here's another example in the cheese category where another price reduction, and this is on Cracker Barrel or Kraft products. So another example of it. And all the retailers have their own means of offering discounts. And here's another example, which you would see a lot at Loblaw stores, is the multi-buy. So I believe those are dips or something in the deli. So if you buy one of those products, you pay $3.99. If you buy two, you pay $3.50 each, or $7 for both. And this is a strategy that's been very effective for the retailers. It's really helped them drive the average basket size. And if you can drive the average basket size in retail, you can increase your profitability, because that cashier who's going to ring through that product, it really doesn't cost much more to put the second tzatziki or roasted red pepper dip or whatever it is through it as part of your order, but you get that second one going through. And that's really been a strategy that has proved to be quite effective. And you can see Walmart are doing it as well. So here's goldfish crackers, and you can pick any one of the products. I think crispers are on the sign, and different ones. You can do 3 for $6, or I think that's what 3 for $5 it says on the sign, and 3 for $6 on the shelf label. So maybe that's a problem. We better check into that one. So, but the multi-buy definitely does work, and consumers are responding to it, quite eagerly responding to it. So that's some of the different examples and opportunities. We'll say, if I was going back to my retailer days, I'd say those are all opportunities for you to discount. And there's Walmart's version of the in-store special. That's the rollback, is what they call it. And they talk. I saw TV ads on for rollbacks just this week. So there's definitely everybody's got their own means of talking about offering discounts. And you also have to look for, there's another example of Sobeys. It's a locked-in in-store program. So they would be looking for vendors to come and offer some regular discounts. And a lot of times on in-store programs, they're multi-week programs where you can participate for 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks. And that's what they're looking for, you to be able to lower that price for a certain amount of time. And also you need to consider loyalty programs as another form of TPR. So this one here, I found this sign, I thought it was interesting. I mean, you really got to stay and look at this one for a minute. So this product, which is Healthy Choice entrees, it was $4.79. This week it's on sale for $3.99. Plus, if you buy 2, you get 10 air miles. So that's a real complicated offer. I'm not sure if it's perhaps too complicated. I think my advice perhaps would be split up the offers. You want to look at, and you get a sign if you do $4.79 to $3.99. So that could be an in-store special where it's 80 cents off. And then try the air miles of the loyalty program a separate week would be more interesting to me, because I think you get a signage over more time period, and also you can see what works. So we don't know on this one, did the investment in price work, or did the investment in air miles work? So anyway, I thought it was interesting when I saw that sign. And also, if you're at Loblaw, you can participate in the PC points program. So this is another example of how you can do it's not a reduction in price, but the vendor is supporting the points. So it's the same thing as offering a lower price on your product, because you're paying for the points in the loyalty program. So you can see this is one where if you buy cereal and yogurt, you get 6,000 points, which, as they put on the bottom of the sign, is the equivalent of $6. And you can be quite sure that the supplier, which is Quaker on the cereal, would be paying for that $6 investment in points. So there are all kinds of different ways, but when you boil it right down, every one of them is a reduction in the selling price from the supplier to the retailer, and you have to figure out the impact and how that's going to be paid for within your business. So I see we've got a couple of questions, so I'm just going to take a look here and say and have a look at them. So you can always tell when something is about to go on sale in the store when you see the product move from its normal spot to an end cap or a special fridge. And so I agree. There's no doubt that as ads, what we call flip over from week to week, the stores sometimes try to get a little bit of an edge on the merchandising, and also if the previous week's inventory starts to sell down, then they'll move some of the product that's going to be in next week's ad into that space. And that's just part of trying to utilize labor in the stores. And also you move it in, we can't have empty space in stores. That looks really bad. So we fill the space, and people sometimes buy those items at regular price if they're on an end cap. Sometimes people just think because it's on an end cap that it's a price reduction. So I also see a comment here about limits. When limits per customer places that to limit cost to the retailer / supplier, particularly in the case of a lost leader, or is that more about controlling inventory and preventing a run on the product? So it's a good question about limits, and usually that would be what we would say at the discretion of the retailer. And I would say most often, it really is not done that often to limit the investment. It can be if it's a crazy price and you're going to offer something that's really, really below, say, what the cost is and that kind of thing. They will do it to limit the investment. But more often than not, limits are done to control inventory of products. And if you put a crazy price on something, you don't really know how it's going to perform. So you say, we're going to only be able to get 10,000. So we're going to put a limit so that we can get as many people exposure to that 10,000 as we can. So if you limit it to 2, then 5,000 people get to take advantage of the deal, as opposed to some people coming in and buying 25 and then other people never getting exposed to the deal and also being disappointed because they don't get anything. So it's usually more done to control the inventory side of it, but it can be done as well to reduce the investment. So and appreciate the questions. Always appreciate getting the questions, and that's, again, like I said at the outset, that's really an important part of our recipes for success presented by FCC, is to be able to answer those questions for you as we go through. And one thing we're going to do this week, and I'm going to go through a bunch of examples here with you on how to sort of quantify the impact of some of these discounts. And we do have a PDF which you can download that has all these numbers in it. So you don't have to try to scribble them down or take a screenshot or whatever. If you just download that PDF, then you can get access to it. And I know Susan will put that in the chat. And she'll put that in there. I'm gonna just make sure it's in there. There it is right now. Susan's all over it. She's put that in there. So there's a link there. You can go in and you can download that at any time, and then you have that as a reference. And again, that's really what we try to do at SKU Food, is provide these kind of tools to help you run your business. So let's talk about some examples. And what we're going to do is use a product example where the product cost, so that's your cost of production, is 80 cents. So the supplier, the producer, processor pays 80 cents to get it produced, and you're selling it to the retailer for $1. And that's kind of your regular selling price. So you have 20 cents of profit built in. And your weekly volume is 10,000 units. So you get 10,000 times the 20 cents. So you're getting that $2,000 in profit. So let's just use an example here where we're going to discount the product by 15%, and that's kind of a standard number. It's really it's difficult, like I said at the outset, to really give you what you should or should not offer as a discount, but we're going to use 15% for our example today. So instead of selling your product to the retailer for $1, you're going to sell it to them for 85 cents. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to sort of walk you through the math here. So at regular price, we're selling the product for 80 cents, or sorry, we're producing the product for 80 cents, selling it to the retailer for $1, and we're on average selling 10,000 units a week, and you generate that profit of $2,000. So now what we're going to do is we're going to offer that 15% discount to the retailer. So your product cost is still 80 cents. Now your new selling price to the retailer is 85 cents. And if you did 10,000 units, then your profit that you're going to generate is only $500, because you've reduced your profit margin because you're offering that discount to the retailer. So you're only making 5 cents a unit, which is $500 in profit. So that has an impact on your business. And yes, your customers are expecting you to offer these discounts, but the difference between 2,000 and 500, that's a big impact. And if you're selling into, say, 3 or 4 retailers and they want you to do this 2 or 3 or 4 times a year, that's a lot. So you really have to consider how often should you be discounting and understanding the cost to your business. So let's take a look at how much you have to sell more to really recoup. So when you reduce that selling price to 85 cents, and you're only generating that $500 in profit. So now let's just take a look and say, if you want to generate the $2,000 in profit, which you were at regular price, how many units do you need to sell at 85 cents to generate the same amount of profit? Well, the reality is you need to sell like 40,000 units. So that's 4 times your regular volume. So you have to determine whether your 15% discount is going to provide a retail that the consumer is going to buy 4 times the regular movement to give you the same amount of profit in your business. And that's one number which, again, there's no right answer across the whole, across all categories, across all departments. And the retailers, one term which you might hear them talk about is the X factor. And that 4 times, that's 4, and I'm using my new tool here, 4X, that's the X factor that they're referring to, 4X. So they're saying if the X factor, if you reduce your product selling price and then they reduce the retail and it generates 4 times the regular weekly volume, that's a 4X. That the X factor would be 4 on that product. So it's one of those terms that you'll hear people talk about sometimes, and you can sort of use that or throw that into a conversation sometime if it's helpful for you. But the reality is, to generate the same profit in your business, you need to move 4 times the regular volume if you're going to discount it by that 15%. So it's really important to understand the impact, and is that sustainable in your business or not? So it's something that you have to consider. Again, you have to factor it in when you're calculating that original $1 selling price, because that's where you have to pay for some of these weeks when you might not get the regular profit that you always, or that you want to generate at regular price. So before we move to the next example, I'm just going to take a look and see if there's any questions. And I see one here from Ron: how do rain checks work when it comes to TVRs? So a rain check is offered to consumers when a retailer runs out of product. So if they put canned soup on sale and you go in on Wednesday and there's no canned soup, most retailers will, what they say, write a rain check. So you have to go up to the customer service desk and they'll say, okay, we have no soup. We'll give you a rain check so you can come back next week or the week after and get your soup at the special price. So usually if a retailer runs out of product and if the vendor shorted them, then the retailer will go back and say, hey, we missed sales of X amount because you shorted the order. We agreed that you would supply us with 10,000. You only gave us 8. So those 2,000 we're now going to have to offer as rain checks, and we're going to want you to pay the difference. And that does happen sometimes. Other times, if the retailer gave you a forecast of 10,000 and it ran out on Tuesday and the ad was in store until Wednesday, then usually they will absorb the extra cost on the rain checks because it was really their fault that they didn't have enough inventory. So, but it's really more that if they get upset with the vendor for running out or shorting the product, then they'll oftentimes bill them back, is the way they would put it, for the product that went through with rain checks. So. So now let's look at a different example, because there are examples where we do get some efficiencies, and perhaps your cost of production will go down slightly if your volume goes up when you're offering some of the discounts. So again, we'll look at another example where your product cost with normal volume is 80 cents and your selling price is $1. And the regular weekly volume is 10,000, and that translates into that $2,000 in profit. But what we're going to say is that because of offering more, because you're going to go through more volume, that we're going to see some efficiencies in production. And always be careful with this, that you really do understand what efficiency is real. Because if your suppliers are not going to change their cost of, say, your ingredients or your packaging or anything else, then just because you move your volume from 10,000 to 20,000 does not mean you're going to get any efficiencies. Now, if you can perhaps take advantage of some volume efficiencies on, say, packaging, if you order a bigger number, or say that your labor can be more efficient because you can put through an extra 1,000 units per shift and your labor cost doesn't change, well then yes, you can get some efficiencies in your product cost. So for our example here, we're going to say that you get a 5% efficiency. So your original cost of production was 80 cents. And now what we're saying is that we're going to see a 5% efficiency. So now your new cost of production during those weeks when you offer that special volume is 76 cents a unit. So if we have our 85-cent selling price, then what you see is that to generate that same profit, you really need to sell about 22,200 units. So you need to more than double your volume to be able to generate the same amount of profit. And one thing to always remember, and if I go back to my days on the retail side, as a merchant, we had to do the same math, because when we put items on sale, we were still expected to deliver the same category margin. We're still expected to deliver the same contribution that we had in our budgets. So we couldn't go crazy and offer some kind of great special. Yes, we drive traffic. Yes, we drive volume, but we wouldn't hit those profit targets. So you really have to balance it. And that's what your customers are doing too. They're doing the same thing that you're trying to figure out in your business. It says, what is the right amount? What can I afford? And what do I have to do for volume to generate the same amount of profit? So if, like in our example here, that you can give a 15% discount to your customer from this regular selling price, and you can reduce the product cost by 5% because you get some efficiencies, you still need to more than double your volume. You need to have 122% increase in your volume. So perhaps that's reasonable for you. And you know, there are examples out there for sure where we see a 2x factor in products when they are put on TPR. That's certainly something that we would see in the marketplace for sure, where you can double or more than double the volume. So again, you have to learn within your own business, what are the efficiencies you can generate, and what is the right level of discounting, and what's affordable, and what does it cost. And it's just important to be able to do that math. And before we move on to the last example, I just wanted to share with you that next week on our SKU Food Recipe for Success presented by FCC, we're going to finish our series in October on the numbers. And we're going to talk about a bunch of the other costs, the things that we don't always consider perhaps when you're developing a product or going to market, or even in the market, some of the things that you need to consider. And I'm really excited to let you know that we have a guest next week, and it's Anthony Battaglia. And Anthony runs two businesses in the Toronto market. He and his family own Cousins Markets, which are some specialty stores, really nice stores, offer some really interesting products. And so he understands the retail side, but also they operate Newport Gourmet. And Newport Gourmet are a distributor of, they focus probably more on the health and specialty products. And so Anthony is a master. He understands all of this. So I'm really excited to have him join us for our Recipe for Success next week. And we're going to have a conversation about some of those other costs and distributors and brokers and some of the other things that the stores are looking for in terms of offers from vendors to be supported, things like free fill and some of those kind of things. So really excited to have Anthony with us. And he really understands the market. He's in it every day. He's going to also probably give us some updates on how things are going. I was just actually talking to him last week and had a really interesting conversation with him just about sort of what's really going on out there in the marketplace these days with consumers and how things are changing. So I told him I'd only keep him for an hour. I could probably keep him for 2 or 3, but we're going to limit it to an hour, but we're going to have a great conversation. So I really hope you can join us next week for our Recipe for Success presented by FCC. And I see that Susan has put the link in the chat, so it'd be awesome if you could be there with us next week and learn from Anthony, because he really does know, and I appreciate him taking the time to join us, and also he has some great access to the market, so some really interesting opportunities for him to learn about products and that as well, because I know they're always looking for new and interesting items. So great opportunity for everybody. So, and the reason I thought about next week was when I knew that our next section is what a retailer might say to you is, well, you should just make it up somewhere else. And I'm sure Anthony might have actually said that to some suppliers sometimes. So I want to just share a little bit about that on the discounting side, about how difficult it is to just make it up somewhere else. So we're going to explore that. And I am watching. If you have any questions about some of the examples that I've been going through, again, you can download that PDF that we have for you, and all the numbers are in there, so you can take a look at it and sort of use those tables to put your own products in there and figure out how to calculate some of the impact of discounting in your own business. So let's go back to our example, and we're going to say that we're going to offer that 15% discount. So we're going to sell the product to the retailer for 85 cents. And we're going to use the same efficiency that we got, that you get that 5% efficiency in your production. So your new cost of production is 76 cents. And we're going to use a sales estimate of 17,500. So it's not 2x, but it's a good increase, a nice increase that I think is reasonable given the level of discount. So if we look at the math, you can see that at regular price, the product costs 80 cents to produce. We sell it to the retailer for $1. And as I would have pointed out a few weeks ago, and I always want to remind you, it's delivered price. Always remember that, it's the delivered price. So our regular weekly volume is 10,000 units for that profit. And for this example, we're going to say our company, we want to generate a return of 6%. So that 20,000 is not all profit, right? That's just what we would look at as what we're making on the product. So bottom line, we want to try to be 6% in the business. So given our 5% efficiency, our new cost of production is 76 cents. We've discounted it to our customers, and we're selling it for 85 and the 17,500 unit sales projection. So based on that profit and the units, the unit profit, then we're going to generate $1,575 worth of profit. But what that is that's a deficit still. So you can see in a regular week, we would generate 2,000, and now we're less than that. We're $425 less than that. So how do we make that up? And that's where, and I probably would have said this as well in my days as a retailer. I would have said to people, well, just make it up somewhere else. You know, I mean, I need the discount. You got to come to the table. You got to support me. Just make it up somewhere else. Well, that's easier said than done. So if you're looking for that 6% return, and you look at our deficit of $425, then really it's simple math. You take the 425, divide by 6%. So somewhere else in your business, you need to generate $7,083 in sales. That's going to give you that 6% that you're looking for there. So it's a big order to make up that money somewhere else in your business. So that means you got to generate an extra $7,083 in sales just to do that to bring you back to really your $2,000 of profit that you were used to making in a regular week. So it's a big order to find that. Now, perhaps you have opportunities. Perhaps you can do some things. Maybe you've got a great consumer marketing program. You've got a great social media campaign on the go, and you're going to generate some other sales increases. So you're going to see some volume lifts on another item or in another region or something like that, which is great. But you just have to make sure as you're running your business that you're balancing all these things off and looking at it and saying, okay, if I'm going to make an investment here, then how am I going to try to make that up or compensate for it? And do I have enough built into my regular weekly selling price of $1 to afford some of these weeks where I'm going to have investments and have the temporary price reduction? So it's just so important to understand that it's part of the cost of doing business, and it's part of our sort of retail environment that they're going to be looking for these temporary price reductions. And you just have to be prepared to offer them, but also make sure that your business model is strong enough so that it can support these things. So if we kind of recap and say a 15% discount, which is not crazy, if you have the same product cost, then you need to do 4 times the volume to recoup the same amount of profit in your business. Or if you do generate some kind of an efficiency, say you can lower your cost of production by 5%, then you need to do about 2.5 or 2.2 times the regular weekly volume. And whether you can do that, you have to decide and understand within your products and your category. And then on the other side, if somebody says to you, well, just make it up somewhere else, if you're offering that 15% discount and you do get a 5% efficiency in your cost of production and you generate, like a 1.75 X factor on your product, then you still need to generate $7,083 somewhere else in your business so that you take the same amount of profit to the bank at the end of the day. And it's just important to make sure you understand all those numbers and really factor them in when you're making decisions. And we have to participate in the temporary price reduction game. So it's important to figure out where the best place. And that's why it's so important to also measure the results. What happens when you offer, say you can offer 10% discount? Well, that makes a big difference in some of these numbers. So, would that be enough to generate the volume that you and your customer are looking for? Or perhaps they're looking for 25% reduction. And if you're going to be on the front page of a flyer, then they're going to probably want more than that. And not every item is right for the front page of ads and that kind of thing, but even inside the ads and the themes or as an in-store special, they're going to be looking for some level of discount. And it's always important to keep learning. So at 15%, what were the results? At 20%, perhaps you decided to invest a little, what were the results? So really track them, understand, watch the category, watch what the competition is doing. Perhaps you're doing a 15% discount, but if you look at their retails, it might only be 10 or 12. So you really have to watch and see what's happening in the stores as well, so that you get a sense of what's the right level of discount that you really need to come to the table with, as we would say. So if anybody has any questions, I know I went through a lot of numbers today, but hopefully that PDF that we have for you that you can download is valuable and you can put that to good use in your business. But I'd be happy to answer any questions for you about some of these numbers. And again, we do appreciate you being here with us on our Recipe for Success presented by FCC. It's great to have people. We have people from across the country every week, which is phenomenal. And it's maybe some point soon we'll be able to get back to traveling and being able to be in the same room. But right now, these are a great opportunity for us to interact and that kind of thing. So I don't see any questions. If you do, I just saw something pop into the chat. So let me just have a quick look at it here while we're going to get close to wrapping things up. So appreciate the comment, Jim. So I'm glad that you found the information useful and helpful in your business and out west. So thanks for your comment. So we're going to just talk about some of the good news stories that we see in food every week. And it's incredible to me how, after doing these sessions since March, that every week I continue to find good news stories that are happening in the food industry. And I think we all should be so proud of the response of our food industry. And as we see in some parts of the country that, again, it's becoming more and more challenging with numbers of cases of the virus increasing and keeping people going to work and keeping people safe. So it's great to see some of these good news stories in the food industry. So this week, I did see a story from Save On Foods, which are operate Save On food stores and Overweighty in Western Canada. And so what they've done is they're partnering with 4-H programs in BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, and they're going to help connect the young leaders of tomorrow. And I believe I saw a number that there are 13,000 people participating in 4-H programs in Western Canada. So congratulations to Save On for supporting those programs and working with the young people in those communities. So congratulations, and hopefully it's also an opportunity to introduce some younger people to our food industry, because I think it's a great industry to be a part of. So hopefully we'll see some of that. October 16th was World Food Day, and to sort of celebrate or make note of that date, Kraft Heinz Canada made an announcement that they're committing $20 million of product to food banks across Canada over the next 5 years. And they sponsored what they called Pantry Day on October 16th. And what they did was they shared with people from coast to coast that if they bought products in these participating categories, so classical pasta sauce, peanut butter, ketchup, Kraft dinner, Philadelphia cream cheese, Maxwell House coffee, Kraft salad dressing. So some pretty big heavy hitters there from their perspective. So what they did that day was for every one of those products that was purchased at participating retailers, Kraft Heinz donated the equivalent product to Canadian food banks. And it was up to, I believe, $4 million worth of product that they were donating to food banks across Canada. So it's nice to see. I mean, Kraft Heinz are obviously one of the big, massive players in the food industry, but it's great to see them giving back to our food banks during these challenging times. And the last good news story I wanted to share with you comes from BC Food and Beverage. And I have the privilege of knowing the group at BC Food and Beverage. They're great people to work with, and I've always appreciated my opportunity. I believe I spoke at Food Pro West a few years ago. It was a great event, and they've really taken it to new levels. But what they did this year, when the whole challenge with keeping people safe at work started to really emerge, and they really got on this early at BC Food and Beverage. So what they did was they saw two issues that were big problems, that getting access to enough personal protective equipment, the PPE, for people working in the food industry was a real challenge. And then also where some of these products were being hoarded by companies or resellers or that kind of thing, the prices were skyrocketing, and it just was becoming very difficult for their members to access this, which was really so necessary to keep people safe and keep allowing them to produce food. So what they did was they went and they secured some interim financing, and then they worked with some people to secure the equipment that their members told them they needed. And then they made it available so that the members of BC Food and Beverage would buy it through BC Food and Beverage, because they had stockpiled some inventory so that their members could access it to produce product for the food industry, which is so important in our society. So what happened then was that Agriculture, Agri-Food Canada saw it, and I guess they perhaps participated a little bit with it, and they decided to make it a national program. So congratulations to everybody, because I think that keeping our employees safe is such an important part of what we do as businesses that have integrity in the marketplace, and trying to protect our employees, but also wanting them and encouraging them to keep coming to work, because it's so important that they're able to continue to produce the food we need. So congratulations to James and the rest of the group at BC Food and Beverage for putting together that program, and then for others to see the benefits of it and the importance of it, and being able to take it and spread it across the country. So if you're looking for information, if you just go to the BC Food and Beverage website, and I believe that it now is available to producers and processors across the country. So great initiative from them. So I just wanted to check. I do see a couple more questions here, so we'll just have a look at those. So when seeking market penetration or market share, is it worth discounting even significantly to offer an incentive to try the new product? And for sure, that would be definitely one of the reasons why you would want to offer those discounts and see it as an investment to try to drive your market share. But again, it's about measuring those results. So when you offer a discount, or maybe it's significant discount, what happens? Does your regular weekly volume revert back to where you were, or do you see the spike when you do the ad, but then does it level off higher? And if it does, then there's a payback to your investment. You're taking that regular weekly volume. If we go back to our examples where we said the regular weekly volume was 10,000, and if you see a spike, you get that 2x factor to 20,000 units. But if it levels off at 11,500, well, then that investment was worth it. But that's what you have to track, and it's not easy. It's work. You've got to communicate with your customers and really try to understand. And sometimes they're not for great at sharing volume numbers, but if you have a good relationship, you got to try to get that from them. Do you run the risk of discounting your brand value? And for sure, I think oftentimes we do devalue food, and that's one of the downsides of this whole discounting and temporary price reduction mindset that we have, is that really the fair price for a product, perhaps it's at this level, but we discount it to the point where people just say, well, I'm only buying it when it's down here. And sometimes that's not probably what the product is worth, but it's so hard to determine that. And I know as my work with different producers and processors, they understand the work that goes behind their products and what goes into making them a reality. So we have sort of one view of what's a fair price for a product, and probably the retailer, maybe they don't have as good an appreciation for what goes into making it. They see it more as a traffic builder when it's a lower price. So there's no right answer to it, but I think that you do run the risk of hurting your brand and devaluing the product when you do reduce the price. And can you rely on the excitement of a new product, or is that not so prevalent in a large and competitive marketplace? I think new is a great strategy for a period of time. I don't think you can overuse it, but I do believe that there is that sort of halo effect that goes around products when they're just introduced, and you can get people to try it and try to entice them with the fact that it's new or different. But remember to focus on the benefits. What are the benefits to them? And the fact that it's just new is not a huge benefit, but the fact that it's new and it delivers this health benefit, or it's new and it has this flavor that they've been looking for a while, or it's new and it's got a better shelf life. You know, what are the things that are beneficial to them, and then sort of use new as well as something. Now, a lot of times retailers will want to focus on new items. A few weeks ago, when we were looking at some of the e-commerce websites, I showed you a space, I believe it was on the Walmart site, where they have a place for new products. So for sure, I mean, I think people go to those sections and have a look and say, oh, you know, I know in our house, for example, it's always a challenge to find out what's interesting to put in kids' lunches. So if you go to the new section, you find something different there, you go, oh, wow, I've got 2 or 3 weeks where the kids will say, oh, you know, it's not the same old, same old. So I do believe that new can have a positive impact. And then the final question, there's two here that I see, is the discounting strategy different if you're trying to position as a premium or luxury? The answer is yes, and it's different within each category. So a premium item in, say, the ketchup category might be different than a premium item in refrigerated salad dressing. So it's really trying to make sure that you really learn about the category, and certainly as you climb, and we'll use the word climb to, you know, sort of more of a premium spot in the category, price is less important to those consumers. They're more interested in the attributes of the product, the benefits of the product, and price is less of a determining factor in their decision to buy. But excuse me, it generates a sign on the shelf, and they may be looking here, but because they see a sign, they look down there and they go, oh, wow. It's not the amount of the discount, it's the fact that it drew them with that sign to the product. And then the final question is, does discounting devalue the perceived value you're trying to establish? And you have to be careful with that. You have to be very careful about devaluing your product with the level of discounts. And remember that you are influencing that final price with your level of discount. Now, some retailers will not talk about this with you, which I find frustrating, because I don't believe it's illegal for a supplier and a retailer to talk about price. But some of the retailers will not discuss it with you, and that's their company policy, and we have to respect that because it's their store. Some of them will talk about it with you, so you have to know your customers. But just always remember, if the selling price, if we go back to our example, that you've always sold it to the retailer for $1, and say the regular retail on that item is $1.50, if you offer a 15% discount, they might put $1.29. If you offer a 25% discount, they might go 99 cents. So the level of discount that you offer really does impact what that final price will be. And you have to think in your mind, where do I want it? That kind of thing. So all of those kind of things are, we have an impact on. So we really hope that you can join us for our session next week, where we're going to talk about some of the other costs. I mentioned we have Anthony Battaglia from Newport Gourmet and Cousins Markets in Toronto with us. Really excited to have Anthony. Thanks everybody for all of the great questions. Really appreciate the questions, and hopefully it really makes it, you know, pertinent to the type of information that you're looking for. So thank you again for being here with us on our SKU Food Recipe for Success presented by FCC, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.